You are not watching this video by accident. If your eyes are on this right now, it's because you are a very special person. God himself led you here. This moment is divinely orchestrated, not random. There's something about to shift in your spirit. After watching this video, your life, your vision, and your understanding will not remain the same. Because when you are dangerously anointed, you don't just live normally. Heaven recognizes your name and hell fears your purpose. So before we begin, make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and type 66 in the comments as a sign that you're ready for divine transformation. Help me reach 10,000 subscribers so that this message of purpose and power can reach more people around the world. Now, let's begin. Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in your walk with God when you stop asking for the anointing and begin to understand the weight of what it costs to carry it. You see, the anointing is not perfume, it's pressure. It is not decoration, it is destiny. When heaven decides to entrust you with influence, it must first separate you, shake you, and strip you until all that remains is obedience. The first sign that you are dangerously anointed is unusual isolation. When God anoints you, he removes your comfort zones. He hides you from the crowd, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Every David must first master the wilderness before he can rule in the palace. Don't despise your season of obscurity. It's the incubator of your oil. The second sign is that you become a threat to systems. Not to people, but to systems that oppose kingdom order. When you walk into a room, confusion rises not because you did anything wrong, but because your presence exposes disorder. Your anointing disrupts anything that is out of alignment with God's purpose. The third sign, and perhaps the most difficult, is that your oil attracts warfare. The enemy is not fighting your past, he is fighting your potential. The battle you're facing is not about who you are now, but about who you are becoming. When you are dangerously anointed, hell takes notice. The fourth sign is you carry a burden, not a brand. You are not seeking to be famous. You are seeking to be faithful. You wake up weeping over the things that break the heart of God. You intercede, you travail, and sometimes you feel the weight of a generation on your shoulders. That is not depression, that's divine assignment. The fifth sign is you are driven by vision, not validation. You don't need people to clap for you to keep going. You move by revelation, not reputation. When heaven speaks, that is your confirmation. The dangerously anointed don't follow trends, they set divine patterns. And finally, the sixth sign, you carry evidence, not excuses. When the anointing is genuine, there is proof. People are transformed, systems are reformed, families are restored. I don't have to announce yourself, the oil will speak for you. My friends, to be dangerously anointed is not about power, it's about purpose. It means heaven can trust you with influence that changes the earth. It means you've survived crushing, betrayal, isolation, and misunderstanding, yet you still love, still forgive, still serve. So if you find yourself walking through unusual fire, don't curse it. You are not being destroyed, you are being distilled. The pressure you feel is heaven's fingerprint upon your life. You are dangerously anointed when your presence disturbs darkness, when your obedience unlocks destinies, and when your life becomes evidence that God still chooses ordinary people for extraordinary purposes. When God marks a person for extraordinary influence, he rarely begins with applause, he begins with isolation. Before heaven reveals you, it hides you. Before God announces you, he conceals you. Isolation is not a punishment, it is divine preparation. Many people misinterpret this season because it feels lonely, confusing, and silent, but what you call isolation, heaven calls incubation. You are not being left behind, you are being set apart. When God anointed David, he did not send him straight to the throne. He sent him back to the fields. While others were in the palace, David was among the sheep, writing psalms, fighting lions, and developing the heart of a king. The wilderness became his classroom, and solitude became his seminary. It was there, away from the noise of public validation, that David learned to hear the voice of God without the echo of men's opinions. Every great destiny begins with a hidden season, because exposure without preparation is destruction. The anointed are often misunderstood because isolation doesn't make sense to human reasoning. You may find that friends drift away, doors close unexpectedly, and opportunities dry up for no apparent reason. But in heaven's design, subtraction is often the first stage of multiplication. When God isolates you, he is not rejecting you, he is protecting what he placed inside you. He separates you from the crowd so that the noise of others does not drown out the sound of his instruction. The oil of God cannot rest on a distracted soul. It needs stillness, silence, and surrender. Isolation teaches you to depend entirely on God. In the quiet, you learn that he is enough. You discover who you are when no one is clapping, when no one is calling, when no one is watching. In that secret place, your identity is purified. You stop living for applause and start living for assignment. You stop performing for people and start preparing for purpose. In isolation, God begins to strip away every false dependency. He removes relationships that no longer align with where you are going. He silences voices that cannot handle your next level. He even hides you from the people who would celebrate your potential too early, because if you are revealed before you are refined, the very platform meant to elevate you will destroy you. Isolation is God's way of protecting you from premature exposure. This season is uncomfortable because your spirit knows you are called to more, yet nothing around you seems to move. That tension is divine. God uses stillness to stretch your faith. He allows delay to develop discipline. He uses loneliness to birth intimacy. You are not forgotten. You are being forged. The wilderness is not your grave. It is your garden. Something is growing in the dark that will soon feed nations in the light. When you are unusually isolated, it is a sign that you are chosen for unusual influence. God cannot trust the crowd with what he's building in you. That's why he keeps you hidden until the appointed time. The same hand that separates you will one day present you. And when he does, you will carry not only the anointing, but the character to sustain it. So if you find yourself in a season where nobody understands you, where you feel unseen and unheard, don't despise it. Heaven is working behind the silence. The oil is forming in the crushing. The voice of destiny is being sharpened in the solitude. When the time is right, God will unveil what he has been preparing in private, and the world will realize that your isolation was not abandonment, but divine investment. You were hidden not because you were insignificant, but because you are dangerously anointed. When the hand of God truly rests upon your life, you stop being ordinary. The anointing shifts the atmosphere around you and challenges anything that contradicts divine order. You do not come to take sides. You come to take over, not through violence or ego, but through alignment with truth. The anointed person is not a rebel, but a reformer. You are not raised to fight people. You are raised to confront systems that hold people captive. When heaven endorses you, your very presence becomes a threat to every ungodly structure that governs your environment. The anointing does not just empower you to sing, preach, or perform miracles. It empowers you to bring change, to dismantle what is corrupted, and to establish what is righteous. The anointing is heaven's authorization to represent God's government on earth. It exposes false patterns, unjust operations, and dead traditions that keep humanity in bondage. This is why those who are truly anointed are rarely comfortable within systems that are built on compromise. You start to feel a divine agitation and inner discomfort when you see disorder being celebrated. That is not pride, that is discernment. When Jesus walked the earth, the people loved him, but the systems feared him. The religious leaders could not stand him because he threatened their control. He did not attack them personally. He simply represented truth so boldly that their falsehoods were exposed. That is what happens when you carry real oil. You don't need to argue or accuse anyone. Your presence exposes the hidden motives of men. You challenge the culture without even trying. When you walk into a room, the atmosphere shifts because the kingdom within you disrupts the systems around you. The dangerously anointed do not fight flesh and blood. They fight principalities, patterns, and ideologies that resist the purposes of God. You are not here to destroy people. You are here to dismantle demonic influence operating through people. That's why some individuals will misunderstand you. They will call you difficult, stubborn, or rebellious because they cannot see the spiritual systems you are confronting. What they interpret as arrogance is often just divine conviction. When the Spirit of God gives you clarity about truth, compromise becomes impossible. This kind of anointing also attracts resistance. Every system that profits from deception will see you as a threat. Every environment built on manipulation will try to silence as you. But understand, this opposition is not rejection, it is recognition. Hell recognizes the authority you carry even before heaven publicly announces it. The warfare you face is confirmation that your assignment is disrupting something significant. The anointing you carry reveals where the enemy has been hiding comfortably. To become a threat to systems means you carry solutions that destabilize darkness. You don't just pray about problems, you bring answers that break cycles. You speak truth where others remain silent. You expose what religion has concealed. You bring light to environments that have been comfortable in the shadows, and because of that, you will not always be accepted. The system will tolerate your talent but resist your truth. That is why God must first build courage within you, because reformation requires confrontation. You were not called to maintain the status quo, you were called to reform it. The anointing gives you eyes to see beyond the visible and a voice to challenge the invisible. You will notice patterns that others ignore and feel compelled to correct them. That urgency is divine. It is the fire of heaven that refuses to let you stay silent in the presence of disorder. So when you find yourself facing resistance, not from individuals, but from institutions, understand what is happening. You are touching something that has controlled people for generations. You are disturbing comfort zones built on lies. You are awakening truth where deception once ruled. That is the sign that you are dangerously anointed. You are not fighting people, you are confronting systems. You are not here to destroy, but to restore. Your life becomes the instrument through which God brings order, justice, and truth back into the earth. And when the system finally collapses under the weight of your obedience, you will know it was never about winning an argument, but about advancing the kingdom. When God places his anointing upon your life, you do not just receive power, you inherit a battle. The oil upon your head becomes a target upon your life. The same presence that empowers you to deliver others also draws opposition against you. You become a marked vessel because the enemy recognizes the potential within you long before the world does. The warfare that surrounds the anointed is not random, it is evidence of value. Hell does not waste energy on empty vessels. The greater the oil, the greater the opposition. The moment David was anointed by Samuel, the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, but so did the attention of Saul. Before the oil, David was invisible. After the oil, he became a target. The anointing awakened a giant slaying destiny, but it also provoked a jealous king. That is the mystery of divine empowerment. Every elevation in the Spirit invites confrontation in the natural. When you carry something that threatens darkness, you cannot expect peace from what opposes light. Many believers misunderstand warfare as a sign that they are doing something wrong, but in truth, it often proves that they are doing something right. If your life has become the battlefield of relentless attacks, it is likely because you are carrying something heaven considers vital to the earth. The oil within you carries influence that hell wants to neutralize. The enemy cannot remove your anointing, so he tries to distract, discourage, or discredit you. He cannot steal the oil, but he will do everything to make you question its worth. The anointed must therefore learn that warfare is part of their training. The battle refines the oil. Every attack you endure is meant to deepen your dependence on God. If the anointing gives you power, warfare teaches you endurance. Without conflict, your strength remains theoretical. God allows pressure to purify your motives, betrayal to expose your heart, and resistance to sharpen your discernment. You do not grow in the palace, you grow in the battlefield. Every hit you survive adds weight to your mantle. The warfare surrounding your life is not personal, it is positional. The enemy is not after your name, your finances, or your peace. He is after your assignment. He knows that if you ever fully embrace who you are, territories will be transformed. So he surrounds you with storms to wear you down, hoping you'll surrender before you step into manifestation. That is why you must discern the difference between demonic warfare and divine testing. One seeks to destroy you, the other seeks to develop you. Both, however, reveal the power of your oil. In times of warfare, you must remember that the same God who anointed you also appointed the opposition to strengthen you. The enemy becomes an unwilling instrument in your preparation. Every attack teaches you how to wield the authority you carry. Without Goliath, David would never have discovered the range of his sling. Without Pharaoh, Moses would never have discovered the power of his calm-turned staff. Without the storm, the disciples would never have known that even the winds obey the voice of their master. Your warfare reveals the magnitude of your anointing. So when you face adversity, don't panic, discern. Ask yourself, why now? Why this? The enemy always attacks at the point of future influence. He strikes before your next breakthrough. He intensifies resistance before revelation. The warfare is not proof of your weakness, it is confirmation of your impact. Heaven would not allow the oil to flow if it were not strong enough to withstand the fire. Your anointing will cost you sleepless nights, misunderstood seasons, and battles you did not choose. But every scar becomes a testimony of survival. Every tear becomes fuel for prayer, and every defeat becomes wisdom for the next victory. The oil that attracts warfare also sustains you through it. It will not fail you in the fire. It will not abandon you in the valley. So do not curse the warfare. Blessed it proves that you are carrying something powerful. If the enemy has placed you on his radar, it is because heaven has placed you in position. You are not being attacked because you are weak. You are being attacked because you are dangerous. Your oil carries the power to change atmospheres, break chains, and shift generations. That is why hell is fighting you so hard, because your victory will release others from captivity. The warfare surrounding you is the clearest sign that you are dangerously anointed. When a person is truly anointed by God, they do not walk around seeking attention or applause. They walk around carrying a divine weight. The anointing does not give you a platform first, it gives you a burden. It lays something heavy upon your spirit that you cannot shake off. You feel drawn to problems others ignore, stirred by injustices others accept, and compelled to act when others remain comfortable. You wake up sensing that heaven has entrusted you with something sacred, something you must protect and deliver, even if no one ever notices. That burden is the proof of your anointing. Those who carry a burden from God are not moved by popularity or performance. They are driven by purpose. They weep for what others laugh at. They intercede when others sleep. Their hearts ache for the broken, the lost, and the misled. They carry the pain of heaven in their chest and the dreams of God in their hands. This burden is not glamorous, it is costly. It isolates you from crowds who cannot understand your tears, and it forces you to say no to things that might make others rich or famous. Because when you walk with a burden, you no longer live for yourself. You live for an assignment. In this generation, it is easy to confuse branding for calling. Many want influence without intercession, applause without accountability, and recognition without responsibility. But God does not anoint you for display, He anoints you for duty. The anointing is not a product. You promote it as a purpose you pursue. Those who are dangerously anointed know that their calling cannot be packaged into slogans or logos. You cannot brand what was born in travail. The oil you carry was not designed to make you visible, but to make heaven visible through you. The burden of the anointed often feels heavy because it carries eternity within it. When God gives you a burden, He gives you a piece of His heart. You begin to feel what He feels about your generation. You see beyond surface issues and recognize spiritual conditions. You hear the cry behind the culture. That's why you can't rest. While others are comfortable, you sense that time is running out, that souls are at stake, that destinies hang in the balance. The burden of the anointed is holy restlessness. You cannot sit still while purpose is being wasted. Carrying a burden also means living with deep conviction. There are things you simply cannot compromise, not because you are self-righteous, but because your assignment depends on your purity. You avoid distractions because they dilute the message inside you. You avoid manipulation because you refuse to use the gift for profit. You serve without expecting applause because the one who called you is the only audience that matters. You walk in humility, knowing that the burden is too heavy to carry without grace. This burden will cost you friends who prefer entertainment over truth. It will cost you opportunities that promise comfort but compromise your conviction. It will even cost you moments of peace because you can't unsee what God has shown you. But what you lose in comfort, you gain in clarity. The burden gives you focus. It keeps you aligned when fame could make you drift. It reminds you that you were chosen to represent heaven, not yourself. And though the burden feels heavy at times, it is also where your deepest joy is found. Because when you carry what matters to God, you begin to see life through eternal eyes. You discover fulfillment not in being noticed, but in being effective. Every life touched, every soul restored, every truth declared becomes fuel that keeps you going. The burden becomes your fire. So if your heart feels heavy with something you cannot explain, if you are weeping for a generation others mock, if you are compelled to stand for truth, even when it costs you, rejoice. You are walking with a burden, not a brand. That is the mark of the dangerously anointed. God has trusted you with His heartbeat. You may never trend, but you will transform. You may not be known by men, but you are known in heaven. And when your time comes, the world will see that it was not your name that mattered. It was the burden you carried that changed everything. When the anointing of God truly rests upon your life, your motivation changes. You are no longer driven by the opinions of others or the applause of crowds. You are driven by a vision. Vision becomes your fuel, your compass. And in your conviction, it pulls you when no one pushes you, and it keeps you standing when everyone else sits down. Validation from people may excite you for a moment, but vision from God sustains you for a lifetime. A person who walks in divine vision cannot be easily distracted. They see what others cannot see, so they move in a direction others do not understand. You obey instructions that make no sense because your sight is spiritual, not natural. The anointed understand that vision is born in revelation, and revelation is often misunderstood by those who live only by reason. That is why people may question you, criticize you, or even mock you, but you cannot stop. You are following orders from a realm they cannot access. Validation is fragile because it depends on people's approval, and people change with seasons. One day they celebrate you, the next day they question you. But vision is eternal because it comes from the mind of God. When you are driven by vision, you do not measure success by applause, but by obedience. You stop asking, do they agree, and start asking, did I obey? You learn to walk alone if necessary because you understand that divine assignments often begin in isolation before they are recognized in public. Being driven by vision means you have learned to trust God's timing. You don't rush to prove yourself, and you don't panic when others seem to be ahead. You know that what God births in you will manifest at the appointed time. The dangerously anointed are never in competition. They are in alignment. They understand that purpose is not a race. It is a revelation unfolding step by step. Vision also disciplines your emotions. You stop reacting to critics and start responding to calling. You don't waste energy defending yourself when you know who sent you. When you are driven by vision, you value process more than praise. You let God refine you in private because you understand that public platforms without private preparation lead to collapse. The vision God gives you becomes a fire that won't let you quit. Even when you're tired, rejected, or misunderstood, something within you keeps pushing forward. You can't explain it. You just know you were born for something greater than comfort. Vision gives your pain a purpose and your struggle a strategy. Every setback becomes part of the story God is writing through your life. So, if you find yourself moving in obedience while others question your path, don't be discouraged. The absence of validation is not the absence of confirmation. Heaven has already approved what earth cannot yet understand. You are not driven by likes or recognition. You are driven by revelation. The truly anointed don't chase validation. They chase vision. Because when the vision is fulfilled, even your critics will have to confess that God was with you all along. When the anointing of God truly operates in your life, it produces visible results. The presence of God does not come to make you sound spiritual. It comes to make you effective. You carry evidence, not excuses. The proof that you are anointed is not in how loud you preach, how passionately you pray, or how eloquently you speak. It is in the fruit that follows you. When God is with you, something must change around you. Transformation becomes the language of the anointed. Excuses are the language of the uncommitted, but evidence is the signature of the call. Those who carry the oil of heaven do not explain results, they manifest them. When the anointing flows, people are healed, minds are renewed, hearts are restored, and systems are shifted. You don't have to convince anyone you are chosen. The outcomes of your obedience will testify for you. That's why Jesus said, by their fruits you will know them. The anointing doesn't need advertisement, it needs stewardship. The dangerously anointed understand that excuses insult the oil they carry. You carry G. Cannot claim to be anointed yet remain stagnant, blaming others for what you refuse to do. The same spirit that raised Christ from the dead dwells within you, which means impossibility is no longer your vocabulary. When you carry real oil, you become a solution, not a spectator. The anointing gives you divine creativity, resilience, and wisdom to bring heaven's answers into earthly problems. David did not make excuses about being too young or too small when he faced Goliath. He carried evidence of previous victories. He said, the same God who delivered me from the lion and the bear will deliver me from this giant. Evidence speaks louder than fear. When you walk with God, your history of faithfulness becomes your confidence for the future. Every battle you overcome becomes proof of God's power in your life. Excuses thrive where faith is absent. They sound logical, but they are powerless. Evidence, on the other hand, silences argument. When blind eyes open, when peace replaces torment. When families are restored, no one can deny the hand of God at work. The truly anointed don't spend time explaining what they can simply demonstrate. The oil authenticates itself through impact. Carrying evidence also means walking in integrity. You cannot produce godly fruit with a corrupt heart. The power of the anointing is sustained by purity. Evidence is not just in miracles, it's in character, consistency, and compassion. It's in how you handle people, pressure, and purpose. Real oil doesn't just change others, it changes you first. So, if you are truly anointed, let your life speak louder than your words. Let results answer your critics. Let transformation become your testimony. You don't have to prove you are called, manifest it. Excuses end where evidence begins. The world is tired of empty talk. It is waiting for demonstration. The dangerously anointed don't boast about potential, they walk in proof. And when you carry evidence, even your silence becomes a statement that God is with you.